By the end of this tutorial, you should expect to know how to take some raw data that looks like this and turn it into a new fully automated Power BI dashboard that looks like this from zero, where you can slice and dice the data in any way you want to, and then the whole data is going to readjust to what you select. Hello everyone and welcome to this Power BI tutorial. The aim of this tutorial is to basically explain you how to create this nice, clean and interactive Power BI dashboard from scratch. I'm going to start by explaining you from where to download Power BI for free. Then I'm going to show you from where to download the raw data we will be using for this Power BI dashboard. And I'm also going to spend some time explaining what that raw data entails. Then I'm going to show you how to open Power BI, and I'm going to briefly explain the layout of Power BI so you know where everything is. And then we're going to start creating our dashboards. Please let me know if you have any questions at any point. Right, in order to download Power BI, you're going to have to head over to Google and just type in Google download Power BI desktop. And then you're going to have to click on the first link. I'm also going to have a link in the description. It's going to take you to this website where you click download now. It's going to ask you for some details. They don't have to be real details, but you can just fill them in, and then the download is going to begin. And then you just click install, and then you have Power BI. Now, the raw data we will be using, which is going to be this Excel file, is going to be saved in my GitHub repository, which I'm going to have the link again in the description. It's going to bring you here. You click on Power BI raw data online, and then you can download the raw data. I have also uploaded the PBIX file, which is actually this Power BI dashboard. So you can download the dashboard if you want and play with it before you start creating it. Right, the raw data we will be using now is just some dummy data I've created, and it's data that all organizations have. So this is the revenue by account, by fiscal month, and by product. I also have some other transactional fields in here like future opportunities, baseline, targets. I also have marketing spend over here. Additionally, we also have some information regarding the account, which is things like the industry, vertical segment, the store manager, etc., etc. Right, to open Power BI now, we have to head over to the start menu, type in Power BI, and then we have to click here where it says Power BI desktop app. And then what we'll see is a window like this one, which is basically asking us if we want to sign in. If you do have an account, then you can sign in. Otherwise, you don't have to sign in. Power BI desktop is free. So I'm just going to click X. Right, so this is Power BI. I'm going to start from the left side and explain these three different sections over here. So the first section is the report. This is where we will create the visuals, so our tables and graphs that I've shown you before. The data here is like the backend where the raw data is. So this is where we will load the raw data from Excel into Power BI. I will show you how to do that in a second. And then this is where we create our data models. So assuming we had 3 or 4 different raw data files and we had to join them together, we can actually do this in Power BI and build the connections here. So our raw data actually was 4 different files. So it was the revenue in one file, the targets in another file, the baseline in another file, and then the marketing spend, actually 5 files, and the opportunities. But I have used SQL to join everything together. So we can only have 1 file now, and we don't have to deal with the data model. Right, going back to report now, on the top menu, we have home, view, and modeling, which are basically very similar with Excel. So if you know how to use Excel, you probably recognize the majority of these options. I'm going to demonstrate how to use some of them later on when we start building our visualizations. On the top right menu, we have filters, visualizations, and fields. In filters is where we want to filter things on either this page or the whole of Power BI. So let's say we only want to see the year 2020 and nothing else. We add it on filters and we filter it from here. Visualizations is where we select what kind of visual we want to create, whether it's going to be a line bar or a bar chart or a table or a pivot table. We select it from here. I'm going to demonstrate this again when we start building our visualizations. And then in fields is where we will have all the column names. So all these column names, they're going to be added here in fields. where you will see later on where we can drag and drop and create our visuals. Right, in order to load data now in Power BI, we go to data, we click on get data, and then we select Excel, and then we select the file, which is going to be the file you're going to download from my GitHub repository. So this is going to be this one. Click open, and then here is where it asks me to select which Excel sheet. So I only have one Excel sheet, so I need to tick it over here, and then we can actually visualize some of the data just to make sure it's been loading correctly. And then we click on load, and then there we go. Right, just to inspect the data now, we can see all the raw data here on the left hand side, and then on the right down here we can actually see all the column names, and then next to some column names we can see this S next to them, which it means that they're actually numbers and we can apply calculations to them. Now going back to the front end, which is the report where we will build our visuals, if I just drag in revenue now, which is over here, then we can see it automatically chooses to add this as a bar chart. If you don't want it to be a bar chart, if you want it to be this graph, you can actually either click on it and then drag revenue in it, or you can drag revenue down to the value. It's up to you. It's going to do the same thing. Or you can just delete this one again, drag revenue here, and then change it from the automatic selection to be a vertical bar chart. You can actually add more things like fiscal year on the axis, and then you can see how you can start building your visuals. However, I'm going to demonstrate this better later on when we create the dashboard. So when you're creating a report, the first thing you should think of is what's the most important thing in your raw data. And it's always going to be revenue. I assume in all companies, it's always going to be the performance of revenue per month. So our objective now is to create a table that shows all the revenue and the other transactional fields per month, so we can see the performance of the company per month. Right. So to create the table, we have two options: the simple table over here, or the matrix next to it, which is basically a pivot table. The difference is that the table does not give you the option to select which where to put the columns and where to put the rows, while the matrix, which is a pivot table, you can actually put rows and columns where you want. So we want to select the matrix because we want to see the revenue across the months. So pivot the data. So we click on the matrix and then we bring it down here. We expand it a little bit, and then we want to add the revenue. I can either drag it manually like this, or I can just click on it. Oops, click on the matrix again, and then click on revenue, and it's automatically going to be added in values. Now I have to add the columns and the rows. I want to add registration fee too, because I want to show all transactional data, and you can see that it added registration fee next to revenue. And I want to see this by fiscal month. As we said before, we want to see the performance of all transactional data across months. So I select fiscal month and I drag it to rows, actually to columns, not rows. So it shows us something like this, which is not really nice. We want to see the one under the other. So to fix this, we have to go to format, which is where we can format our table. And then we get lots of different options here, which I'm going to cover later on as we go through. We want to go to values, and we want to scroll down where it says show on rows and click on yes. Now we can see the revenue across the months and the registration fee across the months. Two things we have to fix here. A is that the months are not in order, so we somehow have to order them. And B, we want to see the values in dollars. So to do this, we have to go back to the raw data. We have to go and find the fiscal month column, which is over here. Select the whole column, go to modeling and click where it says, where is the order, the data, sort by. So here I can sort one column by another column. And because this is not numeric, it doesn't identify the order. So I need to use a numeric column, which is month ID, that it signifies the order, so it can classify the months into the correct order. So I click on sort by, and then I need to find month ID. And then if I go back, then now you can see it goes April, May, June, July is ordered correctly. Additionally, we said we need to make these two values as dollars. So we go back to the raw data again. We click on the whole revenue column and we click here where it says dollars. It's the same methodology as we follow in Excel. So I actually need all the columns to be dollars. So I'm just going to quickly do them as dollars so we don't have to come back all the time. You can fast forward this bit, future opportunities. It was going to be much easier if we can do it like Excel, where we just select the whole columns and you just change it once, but we have to do it one by one, unfortunately. We also have some other marketing spend, I think. Columns, there we go. Cool, okay, that's done now. So if I go to the front end, we can see it added the dollar next to it. The next thing I want to do now is that I don't want to see all these months. I only want to assume fiscal year FY21. So to do this, I can go here where it says filters, and I want to drag the fiscal year into filters. So you remember when I said before, you can filter the whole page, and I can click on fiscal year FY21, and there we go. So now it filtered the data only for 1 year, which is fiscal year FY21. We can see that we only have data up until January. This is because I wanted to show you how to do the forecast from January onwards. So assuming that this month is January. Right, as you can see, we're a bit restricted with space. We cannot scroll down or scroll to the right. So if we want to expand the page a bit, we can click on anywhere on the report apart from the our visuals, and then click here where it says format. So now it's going to format the whole page. We click on page size, and here on the type, we can add a custom page size when we can adjust the width and the height. So usually I prefer using 1500 with 1500 so I have enough space to create my dashboard. Now you can see it's a bit difficult to see, but what we can do is that we can go to view, and here where it says page view, we can click on fit to page. So now it fixed our issue and we have more space to use for our report. So now I can scroll down and create more visuals. It's going to be more of a dashboard now. Right, I want to keep adding our fields now. We've only added revenue and registration fee. We should also add the, let me see. We want to add the other fee we have, which is the partner fee. And then we want to add the baseline. Where is baseline? Here, I can either click on them and it's going to add it. Then I need the future opportunities, and then the future opportunities into run rate. So you can see I'm clicking on the fields and it's adding them one by one. Now we want to make this table look a bit prettier. So what we can do is click on the table and go to format, and then we start by the style. It's on default. Usually I prefer to have minimal, actually always, because I think it's much clearer, but you can explore different styles. So you can see if I change the styles, it changes the whole format, but I'm going to stick with minimal because it's nice, clean, and easy to see the numbers and read the numbers. Then we go down to the grid. Here is where we can add a vertical grid. So you can see the new vertical grid has been added. Row padding, outline. Here we can change the outline of these two grids. So you can see if I change it to, let's say, this purple here, the coloring changes. However, I want to use green, but there is no green here. So if you just downloaded Power BI, you can actually change these theme colors. So we can click anywhere else, go to home, and click on the switch theme. And here, each time I change the theme, the colors are going to change. But the one I prefer is the classic one. So I always go with the classic, which is the I think is the nicest one. It's the classic colors. So I go back to the grid again, and I want to select the green color over here. Right. We continue with the column headers. So I can actually change the size too, but I want to leave it the same. Column headers, I want to make them a bit bigger. So I scroll down to the size, and if I click up and up, you can see now they are larger, so easier to read. I want to do the same with the rows. So I scroll down to the rows, then I scroll down to the text size, and I make it 10. So we can see now much bigger, easy to read. And I want to do the same with values. I want to increase them slightly. So I'm going to make them 9. So now it almost fits on the whole page. We can actually manually adjust this, so we can make the column slightly smaller so it fits in the whole page. Right. I also want to add a title. So down here on the title, I click on, and then the title of this is going to be the main summary table. And then you can see the title over there now, but I want the title to be aligned in the middle. So you can see it in the middle. I want it to be size 14, so it's easy to read. I want to change the font color to be dark black, and then I want to change the background to be bluey. So there we go. Much nicer now and much easier to read the numbers. By the way, if you feel that you're getting enough value out of this video, please click that like button and subscribe to my channel. Right, just to take a step back now and understand the data, what we have is that we show the revenue, the registration fee, and the partner fee up until January. So this has already landed. And then from January and after, we have our forecast, which is basically the baseline and the future opportunities and the future opportunities that are going to go into run rate. So they're going to start recurring. So our next objective now is to create a new measure, because we don't have it here, that sums all these 6 fields together. So to do this, we have to go back to the raw data, and then we need to right click on our table, which is called sheet 1. Actually, we can rename this from here, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. And then we want to create a new measure. And this new measure, we're going to name it as, you can see it up here, total revenue equals, and I want to sum all those 6 columns. So I can say sum, and then I'm going to start with revenue plus sum of partner fee plus the sum of registration fee plus the sum of opportunities plus the sum of opportunities into run rate, and then the baseline plus the sum of baseline. Close it. I click enter, and now we can see down here it created a new, it's like a new column now. We can't actually view this new column because it's a measure. If we want it to be a visual column, we can create a new column. The reason we have columns and measures is because measures adjust their calculation in the category you're viewing the data, while columns do not. I can explain this better on so you can understand it visually. Right. So I want to make this total revenue now to be dollar, because if I add it, it's just going to be a number. So I click here on dollars, and I click on dollars, decimal places 0. Right. I go back here now, and I see this new column, this new measure that I have just created is down here on the right. So I can just drag it. And now I have the sum of all these 6 fields in one new field. So if you do the math, you can see that it's the sum of all the 6 fields above. So what I can do now is I can compare the total revenue with the targets just to see if I'm hitting the targets every month and by how much. So actually, I want to leave an empty row just to be clear that I'm comparing the revenue with the target. To do this, I'm going to create a new empty row. So I leave some space so it's easier to compare total revenue with target. So to create a new empty row, I'm going to go back to the raw data. I'm going to right click on sheet 1 and create a new column. And I'm going to name this column as empty equals, and click enter. It's just an empty column now. So if I go back here and I drag my empty, where is he? It's here, empty. You can see it's just an empty row. I can actually rename it and just add a dash, so I don't want to see anything. And after this one, I just want to add total revenue again, and then add the targets below it. So where are the targets? Over here. Right. So now I have my, actually targets have decimal places, so I can go back to the raw data and remove the decimal places. So it's easier to read. So I click on targets and I just take this down to 0. Go back. Now we don't have, we still have 1. Why? 0. There we go. Took its time. And now we can compare the total revenue with the targets. So I'm going to add another empty row down here. There we go. And now I want to create 2 new fields. The first one is going to be the difference of these 2 fields here. And the second one is going to be the deviation, which is going to be the percentage. So I've shown you how to create new fields, new measures. So we go back to raw data, we right click on sheet 1 and we create a new measure. And this new measure is going to be the revenue versus target, the dollar amount. So this is actually going to be the difference. And this is going to be the total revenue, which is this field. Now I don't have to sum this one because it's already summing calculations. It's already a calculated field. But the targets, I need to sum the targets because it's not a measure. So I need to sum the targets and then I close it. There we go. And the second one is going to be the revenue versus target, but the percentage. So I right click, I create a new column again. Oh, sorry, it should be a new measure. So I cancel this. I right click, a new measure. Then I'm going to name this as revenue versus target, target percentage or percentage difference equals, again, it's the same thing. So the total revenue divided by the sum of targets. Then I want to minus this one because I want to see only the difference after the 100%. So I go back and I add the revenue versus target dollar amount and then the revenue versus target percentage. So what we can see here is that we've hit the target by almost 800K more for July, and we are 6% above target. We're actually meeting targets in almost every month apart from March. And remember, this is the forecast. After January is the forecast based on the baseline, which is almost like the run rate, and then the opportunities we have in the pipeline. Right, I want to make these 2 measures now. First one to be dollars and the second one to be a percentage. So I go back to the raw data, I click on the measure. So this is a percentage one, so I can click on percentage and I can give it 2 decimal places. I think it's okay. And then the revenue versus target, I want to make this one $1 and I don't want any decimal places on this one. So I go back and there we go, nice and clean. Right, so the next thing we want to do now is that I want to be able to flash out the reds and the greens. So the months that have gone well and the months that have gone bad. What I can do is that I can conditional format these last 2 columns. So I'm going to start with the revenue versus target. I'm going to click on the table. I'm going to go to formats and I'm going to go on conditional formatting. Here it asks me to select the column or the field, from the left side. I'm going to select the revenue versus target. And I want to add a background color to these 2. So you can see if I enable background color straight away, it added the background color. But I want to change this one to be just green, amber, and red. I don't want it to be in this formatting. So I can click on advanced controls. And then this window is going to show up. I want my lowest value to be this red, so the light red. I want my highest value to be the light green. And I want to add an intermediate option, which is going to be my amber. And I'm going to select the light amber or yellow. Click OK. I think it's much clearer to the eye now to see the ones that are okay. So the amber ones, the green ones, which is much ahead of target, and the red ones, which is much below target. For the revenue versus target percentage now, I want to select it first and I want to add data bars. So now look how easy it is to see the months that are overachieving, which is basically December and November, which is 10 and 13% ahead of target. The months that are okay, so months like May here, or these months here at the beginning, July and August, and the months that are underachieving, which is the March FY21. But because it's a future month, now we can actually take action on it. We can show this to the business and say, look, we are not going to meet our targets for March. We need to increase our pipeline. We need more opportunity. Right, so the last thing I want to do before I totally finish my table is to just change some of the naming. So remove all the underscores at the border and then maybe center our columns, and then our table is going to be ready to go. So to change the names, I can actually either right click on the name and click rename, or I can just double click and then I can edit the name over here. So as you can see, I'm removing the underscores and it's reflecting over here on my table. I want to name this future ops as maybe make it ops, so it's much smaller now, and then into run rate, so I can create more space. Total revenue, everything else is fine. So you can see now I have a bit more space which I can play with. I can make my columns a bit bigger now, and I can take the whole space. There we go, almost, maybe a bit bigger. Yeah, now I'm taking all the space. Now I want to go again to formatting, and I want to make my column headers to align in the center. Yeah, it's not reflecting, but it's okay. And then the last thing I want to do is to go back to again format and add a border. So I click enable, and I want to make this as greeny. There we go. Right, so now we have our table, our main table ready. The next thing we want to do is to create a graph on the back of this table. However, I'm going to do this on the next video as we've passed 20 minutes now. I assume we've passed it. Please, if you like this video, click that like button and subscribe to my channel. Enable notifications so you know when I'm going to upload the next video, which is probably going to be in 3 days time. We're just going to be part 2, which we're going to finish off the dashboard. Thank you very much for watching.